welcome back with the Power Perception Podcast. It is your host, Langihola. Today we have the privilege and honor of being joined by the one and only Siaki Ika.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
No, man, the pleasure is mine, man. So, I think for the longest time, I've been watching you come up through your whole entire career. Seeing, get on with Level Up and, working with your older brother, Bulu, and whatnot. The platform's really simple, for the Power Perception Podcast. When I started this platform, what I wanted it to be was, I wanted kids who were athletes, who were on the rise, to see that, the guys who have already made it are just like them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had the likes like Star, Haloti, and these guys, when I interviewed them, I think the funniest one was I played a clip for Haloti whenever we Zoom called, and it was an FX Sounds clip from whenever he was on the Ravens, and the line coach was telling them, so, hey, you guys back up off the line. Haloti goes, hey coach, don't talk to us like that. And then after that, coach didn't even mind what he said, and he comes back and he's like, dang, into his mic, he's like, hey, I hella just yelled at a coach. I was like, oh, yeah, he's just one of us. And so, with that being said, my favorite segment is, when's the first time you got playing the sport of football?
Well, I mean, shoot, when you play football, you kind of get got all the time. Mm-hmm. It's kind of some everyone looks out for, everyone dreads. But for me, it had to be probably my sophomore year in high school. I was still kind of learning how to adjust to high school football, how to earn my place and stuff. So I got a snap in one of the playoff games my sophomore year, and I get in there and man, I come in free. I made a good move. I see the quarterback, and my eyes get big. Like, oh man, this is my shot. I've been waiting for this shot, and I'm in pursuit of the quarterback, and then I look, and then bang, I get hit from the side, decleated on the big. This is when Utah just got their new jumbotron.
Yep.
They got the new jumbotron. I'm on the jumbotron with my cleats in the air. Ah man, but that kind of happens to everyone. But that's probably the most memorable.
Yeah, that's great. It's funny because every single time people tell stories of getting got, especially all the bigger dudes, they was like, man, it's always a smaller dude that usually gets.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and so Star, come to find out, it was this small wrestler who played center, 6 foot, like a buck 80,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just like, dang, bro, he just outworked me.
Yeah.
This guy had no quit in him, and so for that part, it's just like, dang. It's like you would think it would be like another big guy who matches their status. Like, no, that's usually who.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just a little small dude who caught me slipping, and so that just taught us, stay on your heels. So we're kind of gonna transition. So for a lot of athletes, who grow up in sports families, especially with the Ika family, I grew up in the Sandy ward, so I'm really close with your aunt Lopa, and Tana, and Mike Ika and them, and so I know how big a athlete family you guys are. What would you say was your introduction to sports was?
It's easy. We had it was called Ika Game Days from since I was little, and it's pretty much just everyone in our family would come together and we play different sports. We play any kind of games, relay races, dodgeball, basketball, volleyball, and since a young age, it was so competitive. It was always competitive. So I feel like that's kind of what brought out my competitive nature, is wanting to beat my cousins in this relay race or playing basketball against my older brothers and wanting to beat them. I always say that's what instilled the competitive nature, made me, want to compete. And then, from there, I kind of just developed into everything else. Everything we did, whether it was games in church games, scripture games, or board games, man, I've always been a competitor. And it started off with my Ika family.
Damn, that's what's up, man. So I'm a kind of get the PG version of this. One of your uncles that I always play hoops with, we were playing at a chapel one time, and at a 14-year-old kid, right? And we were hooping, and this fool was yelling at him, just going in on him. And then he was just like, hey, man, it's like, you can't be doing that. You're the big man. Get in the post. And so every single time back down, this kid's big, right? And so he's killing like the guys on the other team, and then your uncle comes over, and then he's like, you know what, I'm gonna guard him. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he comes down, and he's going to post up, and as soon as he goes to turn, the big kid, the 14-year-old, what's it called? His foot was hanging out, and so when OG went to lift like this, the foot was hanging out on the backside, and he slips and falls over. The kid makes the layup, and we're all just sitting there like, oh shit.
What happens now?
And so we were all sitting there, and then we're at the chapel, and a few curse words flying out of his mouth. Like, no, run that man.
No, dang.
Like, hey, okay, I think we all know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
We'll just keep names.
We'll keep names. That's hilarious.
So I was just like, oh, yep, that's probably the Ika,
For sure.
Competitive. So, we talked about, your upbringing with competitive nature in sports. I kind of want to talk about, you go through the fire with your family. Let's talk about the fire you were put through getting into high school football. You talked a little bit about it being a sophomore. I think what's crazy is nowadays kids look at high school sports as if, well, I'm already good enough to play, so if I'm not playing at this school, I'll just move to another school. Kind of talk about the guys who kind of prepped you going through high school to prepare you for your moment to where you are today.
Okay. So, just coming straight out of it, Little League, I was pretty sure I'm kind of like everyone else, who was pretty good in Little League. In Little League, I was, bigger than everyone. So, it's pretty easy for me to just dominate. But so once I got to high school, I want to start my freshman year. I want to go somewhere. I'm going to start right away. So I get to East High School, and I still have this in my mind, like, man, I'm going to work. I'm good enough to, to start. I'm not saying I wasn't good enough, but, part of going through high school football is, the development. Like, just as the years go by, your body, everything just develops naturally. So when I first got to East High School, everyone kind of knew, like the coaches knew that, what kind of dude I was. And, a lot of the older dudes, they kind of like, oh, okay, so you're supposed to be a dude, So whenever that kind of happens, normally dudes kind of want to turn it up on that person. Oh, we have this freshman coming in and he's supposed to be real good or something, So they kind of turned it up on me, every day in practice. As I got older, I was on a scout team. I was scout team warrior. I'm going 100%, and man, these guys would just give it to me. Junior Angilao, Sam Taimani, Paul Maile, Senin Tuyaki, all these dudes who are playing, Division I football now. Those were the guys who I always say, made me the player I am today. It was day in, day out. Iron sharpens iron, like everyone says. Day in, day out, I'm getting worked, and when it was my time to, start and play, it turned up even more. I'm saying? Now that I'm going to be playing and I'm going to be on the field, they needed to make sure that, I was ready to do my job. So in practice, man, there was not one day where it was just an easy practice. Every day was hard for me, every single day. But, now that at the time I hated it, I'm like, man, I hate these guys. Why are they just gunning for me? But now when I look back at it, man, I'm real grateful for it. Because I feel like, every true competitor needs that. Because everyone wants, oh, yeah, I want to be the best. Yeah, I'm the top dog. I deserve this and that. But sometimes you just have to get worked. You just have to get work, and you have to learn that no matter what, no matter how bad you are, there's always someone badder. There's always someone who's going to give you a run for your money. So the only thing you can do is just make sure you're ready every single time. Make sure you're ready to go toe to toe, test your limits every single time. So that's what it was, and I'm grateful for it.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, something I've always noticed is like, man, there's so many kids who kind of run from the grind, and I think the only way you're gonna get better at football is playing football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I feel like that's where it's kind of hard nowadays too. It's hard to see. Like, you don't really see that no more. When adversity hits, when things get tough for people, it's back in the day. People like that. Like, you like when it's tough. You like when you're dying in practice. You like when you're getting your butt whooped every play because it gives you okay. That means next time I have to come back 10 times harder. Now, if I get beat in this game, that means all right. Now I gotta go home and I gotta do a couple more push-ups. I gotta do a couple more one-on-one reps. Gotta work some more technique. And that's kind of I'm glad that I was taught it younger while I was in high school. Because then when after high school and you go into college, it gets you have to you have to take the bar up higher every single time. So I think that's very, very important, especially for anyone who wants to play sports now. Is you got to learn to when adversity hits, when things get tough, you got to be tougher.
Yeah. I remember last night Bulu was talking about, was like, yeah, man, all these schools were recruiting Apple, and I told him straight up, like, you come to East, man, you're not going to start, but you're going to be ready when it's time for you to play. I think I just want to give you this opportunity. Everybody knows your relationship with Bulu, but what's kind of been that mentorship role that he's had with you through the years as you've gone on and throughout your career?
Well, yeah, I'll definitely say he's been one of my mentors, and it's kind of hard too because he is my older cousin, like my brother.
Yeah.
We've been so close, so just him being my brother, he used that, he used that to get under my skin, to push me, to test me every single time. And in high school, all the way up to even till now, till this day, in high school, I remember he would, yell at me in front of all my friends in the middle of the field because my grades weren't good enough. I had a 3.5, but he set the standard for me and he held me accountable every single time. And not just with me, it's within all of our family. Bulu, he's the oldest grandchild out of me and all my cousins, the oldest boy. So, he's kind of been a mentor to all of us, me and all my first cousin, the boys. And he's just kind of been that, that figure. He was thrown into a fathership, a father role early, when he was young. So since a young age, that's all I've really looked at him as, as a mentor, someone I could look up to, someone who could show me the ropes. And over the last few years, especially when I started getting older, we've gotten a lot closer because I didn't look at him so much as an older brother, more of as a mentor, someone. Sometimes when you think of an older brother, especially being Polly, it's like, man, I'm kind of scared of my older brother. He's just gonna beat me up. But as I got older and with time, I kind of went away from that and more to like, man, this guy's really helping me, changing my life. He's has my best interests at mine all the time. And that's probably the biggest thing I love about him is he's always there and he always has my best interests at mind. And, anytime at some of the hardest times in my life, when I needed some advice, he's someone I could always call for sure.
Yeah, that's what's up. Now, I feel like this one has always been personal for every single player that I've asked, but like when I asked my brother-in-law because I feel like every athlete, there's a point in time where something changes, right? And so, like for my brother-in-law, Star, it was when my niece was born, Arilani, and he said from that point on, the way he trained, the way he got ready, the way he did everything, it was like I'm gonna make sure that I can feed my daughter and take care of my family. Would you say? I think my first question would be, what is that motivating factor for you? And then when was that moment for you that changed, or what part of your life had changed that got you to that point?
Well, I feel like at this point it's kind of cliche. It's kind of what everyone says, but family, for sure. Just in the Tongan culture, family comes first, and that's always been my motivation. But I feel like that point where it kind of became clear to me was really in high school, probably like my junior, senior year, when I started figuring out like, oh man, I could really do this. My wildest of dreams, everybody in the hood who had the same dream and, weren't be able to do it. Like I was like, man, I could really get this done. I could really do it done. And it was exciting because once I, kind of figured like, oh man, I really got a shot. I could do this. All I could think about was my family, and my family is such a prideful family. We take pride in everything we do. And at times I get emotional because the fact that I can say I'm not just doing this for me, I'm doing this for my family, for the neighborhood, everyone who's came before me, who couldn't get the job done. I do this for them, and it makes me happy every single time. They watch me on TV, or they send me texts of how proud they are for me, and everybody in the family has that one person, and for a while, my family didn't really have that, like someone who went out and, chases their dreams to the fullest extent. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all I've ever looked forward to, all I've ever trained for my whole life. So the fact that I can, that my family's with me every step of the way, and the support in itself is motivation. So the reason why I put my hand down in the ground, the reason why I'm working out for 4 hours a day, is so that my family, we can say that, man, I did it. And then they're with me every single step of the way. They watched me since I was a kid till now. And I talk to my dad and my mom all the time, and they get emotional just seeing, I've been talking about this time in my life since I was 8 years old. I told my parents every day, man, I'm gonna be in the NFL one day. I'm gonna be one of the best college football players in the nation one day. And they're like, man, they want to keep me humble, to keep me humble, and that was their job. But now to see it all come to light, and seeing my parents speechless at times, teary eyed, watching me on TV, seeing their smiles on their faces when they're in the stands, it's it's what I live for, man, and it's why I do it every single day. It's why I love doing it so much.
So I feel I don't think many people understand this outside of our culture, but I think when you realize what percentage of Tongan people there are on the face of this earth, it's literally half than of a 1%. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And so whenever you see that, and despite all the numbers, despite all the odds, the impact we still have on this game.
Yes.
And
And that's, man, and it's crazy. Like, even just in Utah alone, like, my coach, I'll never forget this. My coach Brandon Matic, he was my head coach at East. He told us this one day after, probably one of the hardest practices we've ever had. And he said, I want you guys to really think about this. I want you guys to really think about this. The best football players to ever come out of Utah aren't the ones who made it to the league, aren't the ones who are playing in the league right now. Some of the best football players to ever come out of this state are working construction or dropped out of high school. And because of, the history of how long that's went, it's kind of, set a stigma, a stereotype for our people.
mhm.
And I feel like that's kind of been my goal that's ever since that was brought up, don't be another statistic, break the cycle.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So we kind of went off into like a really emotional place
I
talking.
know, my bad, man. I tend to ramble a little bit.
No, no, no. You're good. So I kind of want to like let's change lanes a little bit. Let's get into your actual
Mm.
like playing career. Um, Being that you played in all these, you played at LSU over here. You played at Baylor as well. You got to match up with some of the best players in the country. Who would you say is, the best player you've ever seen lace him up in person in terms of, talent? Like, you're like,
Mm.
man, it's just, that's a show. Like, when this guy is out there on the field, it's literally second to none.
Man, that's tough. That's a great question. Um, Probably have to be Joe Burrow. I mean, I played with him, but just being able to say that I was, breathing the same air as him in the same locker room, like, the effect he had on the people of Baton Rouge and the LSU football program, like, it's like you said, it's second to none, man. He just came in and completely took over, and just being able to say that I witnessed that, yeah, that's greatness.
Man, it's crazy about him because, like, I remember reading like articles because I'm a sports junkie,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
so all of this stuff is just like I can read this for hours, and I remember reading about him in an article, and I forgot what ESPN writer was talking about him, but they were saying there's so many practices where, your average quarterback whenever he goes back there to pass and he competes in these drills. Usually they keep to themselves. They're not like really a part of the team. It's like, and then they played a video of where Joe Burrow was going at the defense. He's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, y'all got one stop. We're coming back at you," going at your guys' defense's head. And then next thing you know, it's like it makes a lot of sense that he took a team that literally won one game to now they're competing in chances to playing Super Bowls.
Mm.
Like right, and so those are culture changers. I kind of want you to talk about. You talked about Bulu as a mentor. Who would you say are like other mentors that you had, whether it's a player, coach, someone that no one would really know that you guys have a relationship like that?
Um, I had a couple, probably two, who are probably the biggest to me right now. First would be Braden Fajelko. He was another defensive lineman that I played with at LSU. He was a senior, and I was a freshman, and I met him like briefly on my unofficial visit, and we were chopping it up, and we were the only two Tongans, two Tongans there at the time. So, when he kind of see me, I could just tell like
Oh, yep.
the smile
Yeah.
was ear to ear, and just from there it was an instant click. And when I showed up on campus, he took care of me because it was hard at first. I graduated high school early. I went into the spring semester, enrolled in this spring semester, and like this time of year, January. And this time of year, I feel like it's the hardest for football players. This is the hardest time of the year. The off-season program, the literal goal of coaches this time of year is to break you. And my freshman year, they broke me. They broke me, and it was hard, man. But he definitely was the reason why I got through my first year. He showed me the ropes. He took care of me. He was a big brother to me when I needed it the most. And I'll remember it forever. Um, Also, my D line coach at the time, Dennis Johnson. I feel like he's probably one of the biggest mentors to me as well. He was with me at LSU, and then when I was at Baylor, he was at Baylor also. So really, my whole collegiate career, I only had one D line coach, and it was him. And just like Braden, he showed me the ropes too. There was times when I was thrown in the fire, and I kind of didn't know how to handle it. He helped me slow the game down. He taught me the ins and outs of what it means to play nose guard in the SEC. And it's a hard position, especially for a freshman trying to come in against these 3-4 year vets who are getting ready for the league. And just the conversations we've had, man, no one will know. Um, like he was like a brother to me. Like he's the same age as my brother, so I kind of looked at him as my older brother. The way we interacted, the way we talked, it was like we were like the best of friends. But I looked at him as my older brother, and when he needed to get a message across, he did. And it was some great messages that, like I said with Braden, it got me through, the rest of college.
Yeah, I think oftentimes whenever guys make it to any point in life, um, it's always the unsung heroes that no one really knows about. It's
Yeah.
like, man, it's like he picked me up at the point where I didn't think I was coming back, and it's always just like nice to hear. It's kind of like the old Chinese proverb says, "Takes a village to raise a
Yes, it
child."
does. It really does.
And so, with that being said, I think we've talked about a lot about your mentors, your where you came from. I really want to focus on where you're going, right? And so now that we know where you're going, in preparation for this draft, you're one of the more touted prospects. Um, I don't think kids really realize what it really takes for you to go and make it at this level. Maybe kind of just break down what your schedule is day to day and things you have to deal with when it concerning, agents, sponsorship, training, getting your weight down, all this other stuff.
Yeah. It's a lot. It definitely is a lot, and it takes a lot. I feel like the biggest part of it is just growing up. Like, especially this time, when dudes are going into the draft, 21, 22 years old, you're barely getting introduced to adult life, and you have to grow up pretty quick because it's not a little boy's game anymore. It's grown men, and the business is cutthroat. and you have to prepare yourself for that. Training your body, number one. If you take care of your body takes care of you. But the training sessions, it's not as killer as people would think, but it takes commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It takes commitment to do day in and day out. I'll probably wake up 7 in the morning, and really my training is from 7 in the morning. I'll probably get out of the building back home in my bed around 3 p.m. So 7 to 3 is, not too long. To some people it's not too long, but from 7 to 3, we went through 3 sessions of workouts. So we wake up in the morning, have to eat breakfast, and we have a lift. Then after a lift, we have, position skill work. After position skill work, we have speed work. And in between those, you have, your treatment, the treatment to get for your body, maintenance work. You have physical therapy for, any injuries you have. You have to eat lunch. You have to meet with your dietitian. You have interview prep to get ready for all the interviews and stuff. It's a lot, and as when you're young, it's hard. It's hard to manage. If you've never really had structure or had set a plan in place, it's hard, and you're gonna find yourself juggling through trying to make it through workouts, trying to balance everything. But like I said, you know, growing up, it comes with all of that. When you grow up, you figure out how to prioritize your time. What's more important. How to get to work, how to do the work, and it takes a lot of commitment. And I feel like that's kind of what everyone's been stressing me to now is if you're gonna do it, you have to be all in. There's no doing it halfway, because if you do it halfway, you're gonna get halfway results.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes lots of commitment. Yes, it does take lots of commitment.
Yeah, that's dope. Well, I think for the most part, I've gotten all the things I really wanted you to talk about. We'll go ahead and I'll shoot like these 5 quick questions, and we'll go ahead and get you out of here.
Yep, yep.
So, first question is, I think this is always cool to hear. 5 dinner guests that are alive, including yourself. Who would you have at the table?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I'd probably Tupac.
Mm-hmm.
Tupac for sure.
Okay.
Big West Coast guy, rapper. I love music. You know, big influence on music too. So, Tupac, probably Bob Marley,
Yep, the legend.
the legend.
You
You know what
got
I'm
to put him
saying?
there.
I don't even have to describe why. You know what I'm saying? Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad Ali. Dang, this is tough. Probably John Madden or Vince Lombardi.
Oh, yep.
You know, just kind of to add some flavor in there. And who else? Who else? Hmm, probably like Joe Montana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is it John Madden and Vince Lombardi, or just one and then Joe Montana? Because if it's just one, then you got four, then you got one more.
Oh, then both of them. Both of them for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
I thought I had only one more.
Dope list. Dope list. I like it. So the next one would be, um, being that you are going into the NFL, who would you say is someone you pattern your game after?
I'd probably say Ndamukong Suh.
Okay.
I mean, that's when people think of nose guards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, for me, that's the first person that comes to mind, from college and still now to this day, after watching the Eagles game, he's dominant. Dominant. And it's not just the play in itself, it's his demeanor, the arrogancy, the confidence. You don't really see that typically in noses, but like, man, he knows he's a freak athlete and he's not afraid to show it. And that's kind of what I've always prided myself on, being a big dude who's an athlete, who's violent, wants to dominate. And I've watched a lot of Ndamukong Suh tape.
Yeah, that's what's up. And then I think the last one would be you know, being that I usually feature Polynesian athletes on here, who would you say would be a great asset to the Power Perception podcast? Someone you could help me invite to come on to the show.
Probably Braden Fahelko. Have you talked to him?
No, I haven't.
And now he does great with this kind of stuff. He loves this kind of stuff. He actually, I don't know if he did or if he's in the process or if he tried of starting his own podcast.
Yeah, I'll
So
definitely tune into that.
he would love to, come and share his thoughts. I'd love to help you out with that as well.
Okay, man. You know, Siaki Ika, the Power Perception podcast.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yep.
My love. Hey, Fody.
Can I borrow one of y'all's keys?